Are we ready? Recording. That's perfect. Mic is on. Let's begin the video. Hey guys, welcome back to another DJI Air 3 video. DJI Air 3. And this week we're going to be covering tracking. So this was fun and some interesting results, and I think they will differ depending on the region. You'll see in a moment. If you're new, hello, my name is Dimitrios, and I create videos on drones, photography, and everything in between, and it's a mix of education and entertaining content. God, I've said that repetitively for a few weeks now. My current subscribers are probably thinking, come on, get on with it. But I have to do this because someone new may be coming along and see this for the first time, so I need to introduce myself. So after several years of flying the DJI Mini 2, I finally upgraded to the Air 3, and I was just overwhelmed by how many more features it had available compared to that drone. And I thought, why not share my journey with you guys, exploring the DJI Air 3 and all its capabilities. Think of this as a series of videos to help you get the most out of your DJI Air 3. That being said, let's get on with the video. Right, normally in this part of the video I do cover camera settings, but the camera settings are basically the video settings of whatever's available in the video settings, and I've already created a video on that, so check that up here. However, there's going to be a few extra items that we need to go over with tracking that you may want to toggle on and off. First of all, if you want to automatically detect subjects, if you go into the main menu by clicking the three dots in the top right, and under control you can toggle off an item where it says automatically detect subjects. Now for me this kind of gets annoying sometimes with these floating plus signs, and it can be very disorientating when you're trying to just do basic photo and video without tracking features. They can be very distracting. But if your focus is trying to track the subject, you may want to turn this on, but you don't really need it. And the second one here is, how do you want the drone to react to obstacles? Do you want it to bypass them? Do you want it to just brake or do nothing? Which I don't really advise. If you just turn it off, your drone's going to go smack into a tree or whatever obstacle it's going to fly into. Now there are 3 tracking modes available, and I'm going to quickly cover those. So the first one is spotlight. Now the drone doesn't move automatically, but the camera remains locked on the subject while the user can manually control. Now personally, I think this is the best one, but I'll explain that as we go through the video. You also have point of interest, and this is where the drone tracks the subject in a circle, and you can even adjust the speed of how fast you want the drone to move, either by using the on-screen commands or the gimbals. And that would be the right gimbal if you're mode 2. Now the last mode we have here is active track, and the drone actively tracks the subject, whether it's a person, car or boat, and this is indicated by an icon on screen selected from the DJI Fly app. Now there are 2 modes within an active track. There's trace and parallel. Basically trace is what we're all used to. This is where the drone tracks you depending on the direction you set it, and you can adjust it either in front, behind, left, right, or diagonally in each of those options. And then the other one is parallel, and essentially the drone is tracking you in a parallel line regardless of which direction. Not many of us use this feature, but yeah, you might find some use for it. Now, there are some things to note here. DJI does specify in the manual like idle ranges for each of these tracking modes. Another thing to note is if you're in active track or spotlight mode and hit the pause button on your remote, this exits this tracking mode and it goes back to spotlight mode. And if you hit pause again in spotlight mode, it just exits tracking completely. You could also use the on-screen buttons too. Now let's talk a little bit about obstacle avoidance, but I think maybe this deserves its own in-depth video, but we're just going to cover briefly here. Now, if your drone is in sports mode because you want to chase something faster, which may be needed from time to time, don't start crying if your drone smashes into something.
I should get some sleep.
Now, if I was a beginner, I would just keep obstacle avoidance on and just fly in normal. Don't turn it off. The only reason professionals turn obstacle avoidance off is because sometimes it could interfere with the shot that they're trying to pull off. But even then, the pros have already analyzed the scene, know the direction where the drone's flying, know what the obstacles, so they know it's not going to hit anything, and they're going to pull off the smoothest shot possible. Whereas if you have obstacle avoidance, it detects something, it could just create a complete havoc with your shot. Also, the drone will always bypass when the drone is set to active track. I think that was a pretty quick cover of all the settings that you need to know with active track. So let's discuss my findings now. Now I'm going to talk about all my findings that I discovered during my testing with tracking modes. And then after I've gone through all my findings, I'm going to tell you like my preferences with active track and what I'm going to be using them for. Because there are some that I like and some that I don't. Okay, first one with my findings, that when you select a subject, depending what, this is going to be specific to the Air 3 as it has the two focal lengths, so 24 and 70. But let's say you're on the 24mm and you select a subject and you have it in tracking mode, you cannot switch to the 70mm during tracking mode. You literally have to cancel, select 70mm and then reselect the subject. You can use digital zoom, but I don't like digital zoom. Why would you degrade video quality for? I've already turned off digital zoom on my drone. I already switched this button here to exposure value rather than digital zoom because I just do not use it. Also, once you select a subject, particularly in spotlight mode, the point isn't anchored straight away. I recommend to start rotating the drone left and right so the drone can anchor the point and then perform your maneuver. So I did notice this a few times in the beginning where I was trying to track a subject, and as it was panning, it would just do this weird glitch effect, and then it had anchored the point and then I was carrying on. Now I tend to like select my subject, anchor the point first, then set my drone to where I want to start shooting my video and then perform that video. So that's something, probably one of the most important things to note there. Oh yeah, oh God. So I think this is an EU thing only. Footage that I want to capture with the drone can't be done properly here because we're in the EU and it keeps saying to me that you have to be within 50 meters of the subject you're tracking, which I get regulations, but now I can't be far enough and it's too close to the trees and it gets all confused. No drone was harmed, still have the Air 3, so it's done a good job avoiding the trees, but the drone will not track you if you're further than that distance, which is kind of annoying because I feel like the shots would be far better if I could have the drone further out to avoid all the trees and get that nice wide field of view with the car in frame. And don't forget, from where I was filming, I was in the mountains in the middle of nowhere. There was literally no one there. So I'm already in the clear in terms of people and the safe distances. It's different when you're in the city or town, I get it. You're gonna have the drone a lot closer, not further away. You might do actually if it was higher up to keep that distance. But yeah, it's just a weird rule. I reckon when I head back to Toronto, I'll test this out again to see if I get that same message that was popping up to be within 50 meters. But I wasn't a fan of it. It kind of didn't let me track how I wanted to track. However, when I was within that distance and I was tracking with the car, it did a decent job. I also have to point out again, it was a bright sunny day. I was wearing camo shorts and a grey t-shirt, so I'm already blending in with my surroundings. I'm driving a green Audi in the mountains that's covered basically with green trees. So I'm giving the drone a hard time. So say what you will about the testing, but I think it did fairly well considering what it had to deal with. So tracking the car was decent and the Air 3 did well to avoid the pine trees on the mountain road. And this was a really windy mountain road. So every time the car was going around, the drone was waiting quite a bit and was letting the land get in the way. And it had to avoid the land and then come round to pick up the car again. Sometimes it lost the car because again, it's that 50-meter distance thing that it didn't like. So yeah, and sometimes it got stuck in the trees. It did all right. I think at best it was better when the drone was either behind us or to the side. So when I had the drone pointing in front as well and I wanted us to get a front shot, I found it did all right, but again, it was a little bit more of a struggle for the drone because it had to predict the bending of the road. And we were driving pretty slow. You could see from the footage that I wasn't driving fast at all. we were literally creeping about, I don't know, 10 kilometers an hour, which is very slow. So we weren't going fast at all, because the minute you go fast, it will say subject too fast. Oh, another thing I know, I have a bit of a plum. When I did originally fly the drone just to get some photo and video in the very beginning of when I took off, I put an ND64 on because it was, again, a bright sunny day, no clouds in the sky. So I needed an ND64, and I didn't change the ND filter when I was doing the tracking, going from sunlight to shade. It was too dark in the shade. So I did put it in auto to help it out here, but again, I'm putting the drone through its paces. And also, if you do look at DJI's manual, they do have a list of do nots during tracking modes. Okay, that's all my findings that I can think of with the tracking modes. And I just want to give a shout out to my friend Nicola as well, who I met through Instagram about a year ago. And obviously we've just been talking throughout the last year. And I said to him, look, I'm going traveling this weekend. Do you want to come with me? And I did say to him, look, when I come traveling, we could do photo and video, but I mainly want to do this for the testing of the Air 3 and the tracking modes. And he said, yeah, it was nice to have him come along for the ride. He gave me a hand, so obviously while I was driving, he was looking after the drone, making sure that it wasn't going to hit anything, telling me to slow down. So thank you very much, Nicola. I look forward to seeing you again next time I return to Cyprus, and maybe we're doing something different. But yeah, stay tuned for a future video where I do the vlog edition of this, and where we fly some cool FPV in the mountains as well. Now, let's talk about my preferences with tracking on the DJI 3 and what I prefer to use them for. Now, for someone who has learned on the DJI Mini 2 and didn't have these features available, I'm very comfortable flying manually and pulling off the shot that I want, because I have complete control of the drone. And I still fly most of the time that way, just manually, because it's just what I'm used to. And I'm aware of my surroundings with building, etc. And just having obstacle avoidance and all these other features are a bonus to me. However, I do like spotlight mode the best. So if I want a perfect arc or an anchored subject, I would literally drag a box over the subject that I want to have shot. I will anchor that first, like I said earlier, because it doesn't anchor to the point straight away. And then once I'm anchored, I will rotate my drone gimbals using the left or right stick or increase altitude, creating an arc or moving back motion or moving closer motion or increasing altitude. And that way I don't have to worry too much about me making a mistake if I'm a little bit twitchy on the gimbals, which does happen sometimes. Using spotlight mode is really helpful. So I do use that. Now with active track, it's useful, let's say if you're walking, but it's a very slow moving subject and the drone's close to you. But if you want those car or boat shots, I probably wouldn't trust with the boat, and you haven't set your drone home point properly, then your drone's gonna be stuck over water. And yeah, so be wary of when flying with boats. It's better when you're near a harbor or near a coastline, so at least you can see it. And that's the same with the car. I get it, it's difficult for most people who are solo creators like myself, don't always have a friend with them, and you're gonna have to use active track because you can't drive and fly the drone. You just can't. You just can't. Oh my God, I turned to North American, what's wrong with me? Can't fly and drive at the same time. So I get the use of active track, but it's not always the best. So if you did have a friend, I do recommend that one of you drives and the other one flies the drone. Use spotlight mode, that's my recommendation, or just fly the drone manually. You get the shot you want, and you can be further out and have that cool car in motion or just passing through the screen. I wonder if the mic is picking up my grandma watering the garden right now. It's another hot day. How hot? 26 degrees. All right, it's getting cooler. I think that's everything. That was a brain dump. I know my findings was the biggest part of this section and just my preferences. This is something I'm going to be using more in future. And obviously I'm going to do more testing to get better results, maybe more ideal conditions and not me wearing camo shorts and driving a green car in a mountainside that is green. But next week we're going to be covering waypoints. I'm going to a mine, I haven't been there before. And then I'm going to Lefgara, which is a village that I don't think I've been there before. And it's got some beautiful scenery. And we're going to be covering waypoints in that video, and my battery's got to run out. Shit, I've got to do this quickly. So if there's anything you want to learn about the DJI 3, put it in the comment section down below. And also let me know what drone you're flying. Is the DJI Air 3 one of those drones that you wish to upgrade to? Subscribe for more drones, photography, and everything in between. And I'll see you in the next video. And in the meantime, you check out this video here, because that's what YouTube recommends that you will like. See you the next one. Peace.